He's brought to us by RBC Wealth Management. 2 athletic subscriptions. I only bought one. I have a sneaking suspicion the Wolves are done. Suns in 4. That's from Flim Flam. Wow. Shots
not from Dylan
fired.
Brooks.
It might have been Dylan the villain. That's why I brought it up. That's getting a lot of, I dare say, in my opinion, way too much attention. Too many Wolves people have bit on exactly what Dylan offered up. That's the team where we want to play in the playoffs. I would not have given him the satisfaction of reacting to it because I think there's been way too much reaction. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I do understand Wolves fans wanting to react because he's such a loathsome personality that you want to dunk on him, you want to punch him in the face, you want to do all of those things. But that's also what he feeds off of. That's what exactly. He wants.
Yeah.
He wants that response. He has been very, very good this season for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
And so it is clear that he is already trying to set it up to win some kind of psychological battle against the Wolves. And so in some ways, the fans, at least, I don't know how the players have reacted yet, but the fans are kind of walking into his trap right now. And this is where he wants you guys, is what I would say. And you followed it, you followed it right in, and now you're hanging from the tree one-legged after it kind of came up and got you. So that's what he wants. Mission accomplished on his part, but I would not be unhappy with a Wolves Suns first round matchup if that's the way it went for the Wolves.
Let me make the toss-up question, a more general one, about the current condition of the Western Conference. And I ask because every year we assume, oh my God, what a meat grinder the Western Conference is, the number of teams you have to go through, the number of teams that might be viewed as legitimate, if not championship contenders to make a big-time run. But I want an updated view based on what we have with, 18, 19 games left in the season. If there's any changes from, let's say, if you go back to the beginning of the season about who scared you compared to who has gotten your attention now, is it still, there's still 5 or 6 teams where I go, I wouldn't want to go near any of them? Is it, no, there's a couple that have separated themselves? Or how do you view, I'm asking you basically to view the Wolves' most important competition based on the way this season has played out to this point?
Yeah, I do think 2 things have changed demonstrably from the start of the season with regard to the Western Conference. One, first and foremost, I thought, and a lot of people thought, it was going to be like 1 through 13 is going to be a battle, and every single night, and you're going to go on the road and you're going to face Utah and Portland and all these other teams, and it's going to be really, really difficult. And really what we have seen is there's been more tankers or more struggling teams in the West than certainly I saw. Golden State's joined that group. Utah's been just a ridiculous, embarrassment. Sacramento, all of those teams. And so it's been a lot weaker at the bottom than I thought. But then the big change at the top is I was not worried at all about San Antonio going into the season. Now I think everyone needs to be incredibly worried. Yes, they are young. They have not won a playoff series yet. And almost always in the NBA, you have to win a round or 2 and then lose. And that's how you learn and you grow in the playoffs and you go forward. And that very well may be the case for these Spurs. But man, Wembanyama looks unbelievable. Harper and Castle look big and tough, and they are looking like as much of a challenger in the West as OKC is right now. And so the Spurs have definitely jumped up. Maybe Denver has fallen back just a titch, but San Antonio is the team that I look at and you say, man, that is going to be a monster of a series to deal with for whoever gets them in round 1, round 2, round 3, however that shakes out.
Do we look at the Saturday game as just another inevitable series of hiccups that the Wolves are not the only team that have occasionally fall privy to, or was it a little bit more concerning given I think, what did we end up losing by 27? Maybe that shouldn't matter. Yeah. How did you view the Saturday matinee affair?
Yeah, I mean, for right now, at this moment, I'm willing to, kind of move past that fairly quickly. Teams lose in this league. It just happens. The Wolves have been playing really well. They won 5 in a row. They're 6-1 after the break until that loss. And sometimes that happens. And you look at how many games are Dante DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, and Io DeSumo going to go 1 for 21 from the field. Like that's an anomalous thing. And so it's kind of easy to kind of move past that. But, if that kind of lingers and they go into LA tomorrow night and play the Lakers and lay another egg, then you start to just wonder a little bit more about it. But, I'll kind of give them the pass on that just because I don't usually see that poor of shooting from 3 of their main guys. And you just let them move on from it. But we'll see how they respond to it in LA tomorrow night and see if there's any more there than just the normal hiccups that happen to, I promise you, Wolves fans, almost every team in the league goes through these little these little losses. It does happen. You don't need to fire everyone and trade everyone after just one of these things, crops up.
Do you believe the master plan is now being set as the Wolves going forward into the rest of the season and the playoffs with basically a 9-man rotation?
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely set up, and it may even be 8.5, Dan,
yes,
in
right.
terms of, you look at how Chris Finch will use it, and I do kind of think that, obviously you have the starting 5, and then you have Naz Reid and Io DeSumo are in stone. Though that's your top 7. And then I do think he's going to look at basically Bones Highland and Kyle Anderson. And if Bones is having one of those off nights where the shot isn't falling, where he's turning things over, then you're going to see heavy Kyle Anderson minutes. If Bones is rolling and he's scoring 12 points in 10 minutes, then you're going to see more Bones and less Kyle. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of Terrence Shannon Jr. You may see Berenger, just spot minutes here and there, depending on foul trouble. But yes, I think it's those 9, and that 8th spot is going to kind of fluctuate depending on opponent and depending on the performance of Bones Highland on that particular night.
That certainly sounds more favorable than I felt about their bench. I don't know, halfway through the season, right? Because I have to admit, maybe I got too down on Bones Highland. Maybe that's part of the issue. But he has shown, some improvement and has shown there on many nights there is a place for him, especially now paired with DeSumo, where you can maybe change the pace a little bit and they can get out a run a little bit. And so you at least, I think, do see the semblance once again, the makings of a bench. It may not be the same bench from 2 years ago, but a bench that does give you a chance to continue to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of their weaknesses at the start of the season because they were trying to get Dillingham and Shannon into the mix, and both of those guys, for various reasons, it was not working out. And so then basically they got into a situation where if Naz Reid wasn't scoring 15 points or 18 points, they weren't going to get much production from their bench at all. Now you have DeSumo in there, who I just really love the fit, even though some of the games haven't been perfect so far. I just really think that he's as close to Nickeil Alexander-Walker as you're going to get. And so that's been a big help. And you're right, Bones just is the perfect 8th guy or 9th guy in terms of a microwave. And you throw him out there and then you see if he can just change the energy on the court when you need it, hit a couple of threes, get out and run, score in transition. And then if it's not happening, Dan, it's not the end of the world anymore when you have Io there. And you can go to Kyle Anderson if you need more steadiness, if you need just more playmaking and IQ out there, then you go to him. And so they have versatility now that they did not have before. And I think that makes them a lot more dangerous in the playoffs, just to be able to match up depending on the opponent and whatever is happening in a given game.
Why do all your trips happen to be to Los Angeles when you're tracking the Wolves, or to California? I mean, that's kind of convenient, isn't it? I mean, I was just saying.
It is, but if the Grizzlies were in contention,
you'd be there.
If it was the Pacers that was a big game, I'd go there. I go where the big games are, Dan. I'm a big game journalist. I'm a big game guy. And so, Lakers, Wolves on Tuesday night is a big one. And then the next day is the Clippers. And so it's why wouldn't you just stick around? It's right next door. So I might as well just hang around and get two for the price of one. I will be in Oklahoma City this weekend as well for that throwdown. Yeah. So I just go where the games are, man, and that's all I can do.
Is LeBron supposed to be ready by Tuesday? He didn't play in their victory over the Knicks yesterday, did he?
He did not play, and it is interesting. I think they said that he's got some kind of arthritis or something that he's dealing with, and a few other things. So it's unclear. The real interesting thing right now for the Lakers, Dan, is that when LeBron sits out, they usually play really, really well with Doncic and Reeves and that group. It's when all three of them are together that they really play their worst basketball. And so, crazy as it may sound, the Wolves may hope that LeBron plays on Tuesday night, because that's when the Lakers have looked their most vulnerable. I don't know exactly why that is, but just the three pieces don't seem to mesh quite as well.
What I thought I'd read or heard was that when just two of the, not just a matter of LeBron being the guy, when just two of the three, regardless of which one is out, are left, that the team has tended to be better. I'm sure people can track that sort of thing, and I guess some of it probably has to do with the old, they all kind of like the ball, right? And they all kind of need the ball to be influential. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. RBC Wealth Management brings us Jonny Athletic. Bonus Ben Gessling at 5:30 today. Are you all in on what now is apparently all but a done deal, Kyler Murray coming to the Vikings?
Mm-hmm. I'm in the respect of, I don't think that there was anything better out there. And so would I like Kyler Murray at $30 million or $40 million a year or 45? No, I would hate that. Do I like him at $1.5 million? Yeah, I do. Comparatively speaking, I just didn't think, Dan, that aside from the impossible kind of scenario of trading for Joe Burrow, I don't think that there's a quarterback out there that if they were to get, you'd say, okay, no problem. They're all set. Super Bowl, here we come. And so Murray has produced in the past. He's an entirely different quarterback, so I think it will require some adaptability from KOC that maybe we necessarily have not seen to this point in his Vikings tenure as head coach. But he certainly does have a ceiling on him that, if you were to reach it, is a little higher than I think a lot of the other guys that were available. So at $1.5 million, sure, why not? Give it a shot. But it's certainly not going to be one of those where I look at and say, okay, they have him, all problems are solved. I'm going to be ready to work at the first weekend in February at the Super Bowl for this team. I just don't think it's that easy and that simple.
I can't get you to bite on A-Raj, can
I? I would take him. I said it last year. I would take him because, it would be incredibly compelling theater for another former Packer legend to come back here. He likes to rock the boat. He wants to kind of give you answers with a twinkle in his eye and a smirk and get everyone in a tizzy, like as a storyteller and a journalist. I'd love it. At how much does he have left in the tank? I don't know, man. I really don't. Does he have more than Kyler Murray? Maybe but it's clear. It sure seems clear to me that the Vikings don't want to deal with that headache right now, and they see a younger Murray as the better one. But I sign me up if he were to come here. I'd be there at the introductory press conference and riding that whole thing through, because it would be a roller coaster in every way you would want as a journalist to just tell that story.
On-air production meeting, Guardsy, will you have ready for me in a moment the sound I asked for from Steve Kerr? Because I do want to play that for Jonny in a little bit. Maybe we'll do that towards the end of our segment with Jonny Athletic. Let's talk high school hockey for a moment.
Yeah.
A dramatic, as good a day and night of high school hockey as you can hope for, correct? Both games go into OT, Class A. Double A goes into double overtime. There's been a lot of discussion since. And by the way, we spent almost the first hour of Sunday sermons on the hockey, on how much it paid off, the whole bit. But eventually we did get to, we didn't lead with, it's important, but we did eventually get to a couple of things. What Guardsy's high school did in the semifinals at the end of the game, in which as close to a full all-out brawl as I remember seeing in a high school bleeping hockey game, for God's sake, broke out, and a lot of it seemed to be Edina just incapable of dealing with the fact that they got beat. But then that got lost a little bit because Sunday, as Minnetonka's blowing a 3-0 lead and then a 4-1 lead to lose in double OT, I got a lot of texts from people saying, I don't understand this whole bit where as soon as the medal is put on you, it's like you're trying to tear it off. It's not a good look, no matter how much of a tradition it's becoming in some places, and it's kind of disappointing. I was more disappointed by the news that nobody showed up to the post-game presser, which I know you noted the night before. And in a pecking order, am I going to be as frustrated with the players for not showing up as the coach? No. Again, it's high school kids. I would still recommend you try, you find a way. I know it's devastating. It's awful. But to me, again, I don't headline it. I don't lead with it. But the coach has got to show, right? I mean, the coach has to 100%. Show up. That's a tone that's so important to set because you know and I know high school hockey or high school sports generally, even in 2026, covered differently than anything else. I mean, people in their minds might say, man, that was a bad lead to blow, whatever. But they're not going to savage the team. In fact, in a game that goes and still ends up going to double overtime, they're going to go, that's an all-timer. That's one of those games they're going to be remembering for a while. And to me, that was the one thing that did kind of take away from it. What did you think?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, Dan. Did I like watching what the players did, ripping the medals off? No, I thought that looked spoiled. I thought that looked petulant. But I'm willing to give 16, 17, 18-year-old kids passes on that. You're not going to be acting your best self all the time and the most mature, well-rounded individual in that moment. But what I will say is I think one of the reasons some of them did act that way is the head coach has to set a tone of how you lose with grace and dignity. And you cannot, hockey fans and Minnetonka fans and head coaches and all that, you cannot spend all year saying this Minnesota State high school hockey tournament is better than anything in the world. This is another level. You have to be there and experience it. It's such a special occasion. And then say, well, we don't have to do media at that. And that, why do I have to do that? Like that, I don't owe you anything. No, you don't owe the media anything, but what you do owe is you owe your kids setting an example of, hey, this is how you handle defeat and adversity. And also, yes, you're right. They are not, Goldsworthy was not going to be put over the coals. Why didn't you change this line with that line?
Exactly.
Why didn't you do this?
Yep.
Why didn't you do that? What he had the opportunity to do is get up there when his team had its heart ripped out and was probably a little embarrassed and say, you know what? This team was number one in the state all year. I am so proud of these kids. They fought tooth and nail. Yes. It didn't go our way. We're going to be better for this over the long haul. We're going to learn from this. We're going to grow from this. But these guys, they put their blood, sweat, and tears on the ice for me, and I couldn't be more damn proud. And instead, this guy goes and runs and hides. And it just looks very cowardly and very petulant in the moment. And so when you see him act that way, then you say, you know what? Maybe I know why those kids acted that way in that moment. Maybe the example is being set in the wrong direction. And I frankly thought it was unprofessional and he missed the moment. I really think that.
Well, you hit on a key part of this is if you want this event to be trumpeted as more than a high school event, right? This is the event. This is our crown jewel.
Yes.
That means you're saying it's big, it's covered as if it's big, wall to wall, TV, radio, the fan, etc. If you believe that and you want to strut about it and say we all have to be proud of it, you can't suddenly say, as some texters did Sunday morning, oh, come on, what's the big deal? It's just, it's the kids being a little frustrated. It's like, well, no. You're telling me all along that this is different than any other high school event. in its largeness, in its bigness, right? And it's at the moment when it's convenient for it, it's like, oh, it's just another high school game. You know, they're high school kids. What's the big deal? So it doesn't have to be the story of the century. We know there's a lot more serious stories going on right now in the world of sports and beyond. But I just think it was so unnecessary. And if I felt like that the coach was going to be in front of a firing squad of jackals going, as you say, why did you make this change? Or how about a timeout here, coach, or whatever? No one was going to do that after a game like that. That's the part that you go, everything would have been positive, even about losing, as odd as that sounds. And at the moment, it's hard because they've had such an incredible season. They're the top seed. It's there for them twice. But no one was going to be pounding away at them. Nobody that matters was going to be pounding away at them, other than maybe a few online trolls. And so you bring it down to a place that it never would have gotten to. It would have just been about the bigness of the event and the bigness of the game itself, championship game.
Well, and one other thing on that, Dan, which we have seen from this coach and this team before, because they've won it before, right? And others. If they won the game, if they had closed that out, who would have been front and center answering every question that you wanted? This coach, Goldsworthy, would have been out there and talked about how great it was and how great their team was, and he would have been out there and sharing and doing everything. And so if you're going to do that, if it is a big deal when you win, but all of a sudden when you lose, I don't have to do any of this, that's the wrong message.
Yes,
like, that
100%.
does not do anything for your kids to show, because this is not the last big game they're going to lose in their hockey careers, or if they go on to play in college. This is not the last bit of adversity they're going to have in their lives. And they just, just missed it out. It was really it was unfortunate. You're right. I don't think he should be fired. No. I don't think he should be suspended or anything like that. It's just unfortunate that that's the way it happened, and it just sets the wrong tone, unfortunately.
Fairness and savagery of an unnamed texter who's listening to this and your comments wrote this. I just want to, I feel if I'm going to be fair, I have to address this with you, and then you can respond. I think Tonka must have handed Johnny and Blaine football a bad loss back in the day. Is there anything to that? Is there something personal that's a part of this particular rant on your part?
You know what? He's not wrong, whoever sent that in, because we never played them and lost, at least during my time at Blaine. But they did steal head football coach from Blaine, the guy, Dave Nelson, who is like one of the major influences in my entire life.
We call him Nelly in Minnetonka, Johnny. We call him Nelly in Minnetonka. We got a great vibe with him. We call him Nelly.
An amazing guy, and they threw a gobs of money at him and all the power and everything, and he went and he's on Lake Minnetonka and living the life down there, and so maybe there is a little bitterness there about that, but I can guarantee you, if he would have lost that game, he would have been talking to the media. I'll just say that.
That's so good. Well, did you hear what Seifert said? Because Seifert is in the middle of this whole culture. Yeah. He's devastated. He said, all I want to say to all the naysayers and the detractors, we'll be back. That's all he said. We'll be back.
Kevin Seifert.
Kevin Seifert is on it. He is embedded.
Man, one of the jackals, one of the journalists that wants to, as Brad Childers say, come down the hill and shoot the wounded.
Yes.
And now he's covering for them, and the little engine that could in Minnetonka, and they'll be back after this. We'll see. We'll see about that.
There was a cloud over the Mite Jamboree yesterday in Minnetonka. I won't lie. There was a cloud.
Had to be.
The Mites had a tough time bouncing back.
It's all connected.
My Mite was devastated.
Yeah,
my Mite was devastated.
Yeah.
By the way, a text to all of us from 612 guy. One player from Edina does a cheap shot, not the entire team of the city itself. Confirmation bias is at work here. Does the Edina Inn want to get in on that?
Well, I'll respond too. Moorhead wasn't innocent in all this. Now, watch the games. I watched all of them. There was a lot of stuff going on. The Edina guy, ridiculous.
Well, yeah, that was the problem. You lose, and then you're in it at the end. You're going to end up.
They were getting talked to going into the intermission, second and third period. There were these long conferences. There was a lot going on. In the greatest high school tournament in the country. Which was
and one thing that needs to be said also is It is kind of being characterized more nationally as this little team from Moorhead with the potato mascot that toppled the big rich kids in the city. I don't think that the people in Moorhead that, a lot of the members of this hockey team are exactly, out in the food stamp line right now. I'll just say like that. It's a great program. They've built a lot. They've got money up there in Moorhead and doing well for themselves as well. But, given who the choice, of course, I'm going Moorhead's way. But that's not exactly just a ragtag group either. So,
and they're about to win like 10 in a row too. Moorhead is exploding. There's 5 million Cullens that just keep coming at you in ways.
They went from the team, the school that could never win it and get to the championship game and never win it, to now they may never lose
at the youth level, which I'm fortunately or unfortunately a big part of now. They are a wagon.
We're late, but 952 guy, also bitter, maybe with all of us, maybe more with you, I don't know. Goldie was more concerned about consoling the kids than pacifying the media. Get over it. That's what he says. 952 guy says, get over it.
Knock it off. Consoling these guys? Yeah, okay. No, you can do that. You can console them. And guess what would console them more than anything? Get out there and sing their praises to the public and tell your side of the story. Make sure that Minnetonka is represented in all of the game stories and things about that, rather than being, the skippers were unavailable for comment.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what's coming across to me, because I, as you know, essentially agree with you. But I think some of the edge, which is, you don't always have the edge you're showing today, might be some of that resentment that unnamed texter brought up. So there might be. It might not all be altruistic here in this case. It might be a little bit of extra juice because of that previous baggage. Is that fair?
I don't think it is. I will say that I do have baggage, though, Dan, for high school coaches who act this way. Mm-hmm. I do. Like, I often, I'm around pro guys and major college guys all the time. And certainly I see plenty of that, up here as well. But when high school coaches who are so important to kind of molding young people act this way, it does get in my craw. And I've done it with, I remember the Wayzata Hopkins beef a year or two ago. I remember a lot of those things. It just I don't like it. I really don't. It really rubs me the wrong way. And I just maybe it's because my guy who was stolen from Blaine by Minnetonka set me on the right path and set a great example for me. Maybe that is a deep underneath it, a layer here. But I don't think it's just an axe to grind. It's just like that fits with me, though. I do. I struggle with it.
Along those lines, Johnny, before you go, any words for Hopkins coach and former Blaine coach Kenny Novak Jr. on setting the career coaching wins record within the past week in their section win? Any words of encouragement or wisdom for Coach Novak?
I'm not sure he can outdo you when it comes to Novak cheap shots, right? I mean, I think
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're the leader in the clubhouse on that, aren't you?
Johnny's the guest.
Oh, that's right.
Johnny's on a roll. First of all, you started hot by saying, I'm a big game journalist. Josh Broughton loves that one. He texted me immediately. That was brilliant. This might be the best. RBC Wealth Management's getting their money's worth out of Jonny Athletic today.
There's no question. Yeah.
So anything for Coach
Novak? Novak? Yeah.
My lift is right outside waiting to take me to the airport, so I better go get that before I get myself in any more trouble.
Even better. All right, do this. Safe travels, and we'll be in touch. Great stuff. Thank you, Johnny.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Jonny Athletic headed west to track the Timberwolves, and then he's following them all the way across country to Oklahoma City. Thunder Showdown is indeed coming up. We're starting to get to that interesting part of the year, I think, where you can really pay more attention to regular season games, even if occasionally the home team will lose at home by whatever it was, 30, 27, whatever the case may be. Don't forget, we've got Ben Gessling coming up in about an hour. We got a lot of other, I think, good subjects to explore beyond the Vikings quarterback situation, and we'll start doing a lot of that next. Done. 763 guy listening to the banter regarding the high school hockey tournament and conduct afterwards on the part of both Edina, well, actually late in and then after, in the case of Edina, and then Minnetonka after losing the championship game. Don't forget that Hibbing also took off their medals, had to be called twice to pick up their second-place trophy, just because they were the quote-unquote small school. They needed to act more classy as well. I will speak, and I don't know how accurate that is. I wasn't watching that ceremony. I'll take him at his word. But I will say this. I do think as much fun as we have with the Edina stuff and the big suburban school stuff, it can get a little lazy and a little easy to associate a certain kind of behavior with one sort of school, that no one at a smaller school, more of a blue-collar situation, could ever be capable of that kind of behavior. Now, we can all, I guess, speak from our own experiences on it, on where it might be more likely to take place for various reasons. But it gets a little, the emphasis should be on the behavior rather than necessarily the school in which that it took place. As much fun as those tropes are, as the cliche goes, they can be rather lazy on occasion as well. There's a huge difference between the pros and high school, but one only needs to go back a couple weeks when Team Canada accepted their silvers and Beanie Babies with class and were available.
Beanie Babies.
That's why they stood there, because the Beanie Babies are so valuable.
They are. You have to earn those. You can't buy them.
I'm still waiting. You know what I just realized? Now that we have confirmed, or that it has been confirmed to us that Bill Guerin's going to be a part of the Enough Said program on Friday, we got to work ahead to see if he can present us with hoodies.
Right.
Do you think he's got enough extras? Probably not.
No.
No chance?
I don't think he does.
You don't think he has any?
I don't think
he's got people who does.
Yeah.
He's got to have people who have access to that stuff, don't they, or not?
Maybe.
Especially now?
Yeah, maybe. Well,
You're going to say that's not going to be big business now?
He can write his own ticket now, too,
Yes.
and basically call the shots on whatever he wants to do. So he could get us some hoodies if he wanted to.
Yes, correct.
But he definitely does not want to.
You're right.
He's telling his own players to tell your friends buy tickets, you know? He's not really big into the free stuff, which I actually respect.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. Blaine developed Novak and Nelson. Johnny knows the truth. That's from 763 guy as well. So this is quite an accusation. Spuds operating like a junior hockey team, or Shattuck pulling top Fargo kids over to Minnesota, and team doing all online classes, spending a majority of the day going on and off ice training. That's quite a charge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can he prove that? Can Brandt prove that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But also to the point about the Steve Kerr audio you want to play a little bit later in the show.
Yeah,
is that
I meant
against
to get
the rules?
to that with Johnny, but we were on too much of a roll.
Well, we had to let him go.
We had to let him go.
Plus,
he rarely gets going like that.
And also, the SGA stuff, as you know, because it is with me, I think it's a sore spot for Johnny, too. So that might have just put him over the edge.
Yes.
If you had Steve Kerr defending SGA, which,
Yes.
just spoiler alert, that's kind of what the sound is about.
He sort of does, sort of doesn't,
Yeah.
I would argue, but go ahead.
Yeah. So that may have been his final appearance on the show, and even in any medium, because he might have just gone right over the edge.
Does the Indiana boys high school tournament rival the Minnesota boys high school hockey tournament? That's Stephen Andover. Yes, I think it does. I think it's hard to believe that here because we are, immersed in this. Now, I will say, I actually don't even know how many classes there are in Indiana now, but I know there's no longer one. That used to be the charm also of the Indiana high school tournament. You can double check. It's definitely got to be more than one at this point, doesn't it? Or am I wrong? Can you tell?
I'm going to look it up.
Okay,
it's going to take a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, there are. I retweeted it, but I don't. It's too far back for me to remember what it was. And it was a good nugget reacting, in this case, to two teams playing against one another. Very much smaller schools, but yes, it's because again, for the people who grew up in it, the history is rich.
Yeah.
Every bit as rich. It stands out in a very similar fashion. I mean, you could have there's no question that you could do a form of Hoosiers celebrating Minnesota high school hockey. There's no doubt about that. If you pick a certain team, build a screenplay. In fact, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest with you. Somebody hasn't done that to try to, maybe somebody hasn't, I don't even know it.
Right. 4 classes in Indiana.
It
hoops,
is
by the
4,
way.
yeah.
Yep.
And I don't remember when they, eventually it was, hey, look, reality is we can't just stick with the romance of Hoosiers. It's over. Similar, really, to what's happened here. Now, there's only 2,
Yep.
right? But we did go to 2, and there was a big debate. I remember us being in the middle of that over the decades on what the right approach is and how to if you're gonna separate the classes, how to go about doing it. But it is, in its own way, the history is great. Some of the matchups have been great. There have been some unbelievable games and gyms that are filled to the gills, all along the line, even at the sectional level, even at the regional level, even at the semi-state level as well. We need to get caught up after going along with Johnny. As I mentioned, some bonus Ben Gessling, believe it or not, to talk marathon running today. We'll give you more details on that a little bit later. We do have the Kerr sound to get to at some point. We've got another bit of sound that I enjoyed from the pop culture world. And also, I think, a war in Iran update that I want to discuss that might be kind of interesting to individuals and maybe even a prediction. Stay tuned. I saw via CNN that the president was about to speak. Maybe he already did and I missed it in news conference fashion. As we start what is essentially the second week of the war with Iran. And a lot of people have asked, well, how are we going to get out of this? What's the exit strategy? What's the way out of the box? Because this thing can go so many ways, already has kind of, to a large extent, perhaps had unintended consequences, concern about oil, gas prices, etc., widening the conflict, etc. And I think it was, who's the guy on CNN? His name will come to me in a minute, that I watched over the weekend to say that this might be one of the occasions when the Trump stream of consciousness form of decision-making might actually serve him. Because he said, well, he can always, at any moment, he can just say, we're done. It's over. Doesn't mean in a larger sense it would be in terms of the ramifications of what has already been done, but he could say that, and he's capable of saying that. And guess what? Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump thinks the war against Iran, quote, is very complete, end quote. And then Washington was, quote, very far ahead, end quote, of his initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame, according to a CBS News reporter on X who cited an interview with him. I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no Navy, no communications. They've got no Air Force. Trump was quoted as saying by a CBS News White House correspondent. Trump also said the U.S. is very far ahead of his initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame for the war. That's the prediction here. I think, and maybe it's even going to be today, maybe a little longer, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. Because that's how he works. You go, okay, that was enough. Okay, I got that out of my system. Now, how about Cuba? Let's see if we can start messing with Cuba a little bit. He loses interest, I think, to a large degree, and he may well see, well, what are some of the political ramifications here? The polls indicate that across the political spectrum, this isn't very popular. Among the hardcore Trump fans, he's okay. They've been brought along, even though this is contrary to everything he said he was, campaigning on. But he's got to worry about more than that. He says he's not worried about oil prices and he's not worried about gas prices, but he often says one thing and then his actions indicate something else. Just like the actions here in changing the momentum on the ICE story, I think ultimately had him make the change and bring in your guy Holman in place of the clowns who are in charge here. So that That makes sense to me. I think it may not be today, but I would not be at all stunned that within the next few days, he just has another press conference and said, we're done. We've made our point. They know. And by the way, the open-endedness probably will be Israel saying, you can keep naming new heads of the country, and we'll keep assassinating them, right? That part of it might not go away. And I guess that's the other X factor, though. Where's Israel in this? So when Trump says that's enough, will Israel go along with that? That's enough? Or will they continue to act independently, even though the two sides have obviously been very much in concert from the very first day? So that, to me, is the most likely scenario for people to say, well, this could end up being quite a morass. How do we get out of it? He just says we're done.
We did what we needed to do.
We did what we needed to do.
Mission
and again,
accomplished.
There are other. That doesn't mean there aren't significant ramifications that might be beyond his control, but he can say at some point, we're done with what we did in terms of our bombing, and now they've learned their lesson, and he'll say we decimated them, which he has said before, and then if he has to, he can go back on it again a little later on. But I think that's, like I said, that part of it is I think that's the likely way this is going to go. I think that's far more likely than we're going to be in a concerted effort that goes on month after month after month. Now, I know that contradicts some of the other reporting, which is we're considering troops on the ground, special forces kind of troops for specific activity. We got to get the uranium out of there. Things which I don't even think is realistic, to tell you the truth. And that stuff is contradiction, but that's him or people in his administration who tend to throw everything out there, every possibility out there. I don't think that necessarily means they're going to do it. So I think that's by far the most likely scenario. We're just done. We're going to get a few more shots in this week, maybe, or maybe the next several days, just to be sure. And then we're going to say, okay, let's move on to whatever, Cuba or the next country or somebody else that we're thinking of. I think that's very much the way it's likely to indeed go. Gessling is going to join us in 30 minutes, and believe it or not to talk Vikings. We've had plenty of Vikings talk early. We'll keep an eye on the free agency tracker. We've added a corner. We've lost a number 3 wide receiver. We've lost our punter.
We liked our punter.
And we did like our punter finally, even though he was still... Did he ever stop being mad at PA for calling him portly?
Oh, good question.
Was that the term? Whatever the term was,
yeah.
He was like a little bit chunky.
Yeah, well, he was a bigger guy, big bones.
He didn't like that.
Yeah.
Apparently. I didn't know that, but he didn't like... Punters can be sensitive,
They're
too.
very sensitive.
Yeah, who's to know?
We just had Mitch Berger on a couple of weeks ago.
That's another thing. He's probably mad at me.
Why?
Because I forgot to tell you, he'd asked... His only request after was that we send him, for his kid, a tape of the conversation, because he thought his kid would get a kick out of hearing his dad on the radio.
Well, we
Is
can
that still
do
doable?
That. Yeah, of course.
I'm glad you brought up his name, because I completely forgotten about it.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking of is a dad who frequently has to pick their kids up or drop them off at school or try to be around as much as I can, even though I have a crazy schedule.
Yes.
He had to leave. He had a hard out because he had to pick the kid up from school, if you remember. So I'm thinking he's trying to prove himself as a father to his kid. Like, hey, I was doing this, but then you are more important. I had to pick you up. So I was having this great conversation with one of my old buddies.
Yeah.
But you came first.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Trying to prove it.
All right, what do we have for top 5?
We'll talk a little bit of wild, but the comings and goings, you mentioned it a little bit. Legal tampering. I love the phrase, legal tampering in the National Football League. We'll give you everything you need to know about the Vikings and beyond.